Hi, I'm Claire from Inspiratrix Yoga. This class is a hips and legs focused class, and the intention is to let go of the visual and be more in your hearing senses and feeling senses. Props wise today, if you have a bolster, that would be helpful. Otherwise, instead of a bolster, you could use 2 blocks or 2 or 3 blankets in a pile. If you have blocks, there's other occasions when a couple of blocks will come in handy. Otherwise, you can improvise. And something to pad your knee, so like a blanket or a cushion, that would be helpful. So gather whatever props you can, and then let's get started. Start sitting on your mat, close your eyes, and switch your Ujjayi breathing on. If you don't know Ujjayi breathing, I'll just put a link up in the corner, and you can click on that to have an Ujjayi breathing tutorial if you've never done it before. But if you've done it before, you know that Ujjayi is this whispering breath where you're contracting the back of the throat and lengthening your breath, breathing in and out through the nose. Closing your eyes to go inside. Bringing that whispering Ujjayi sound into your breath. And making each breath a little slower and deeper than the previous breath. Let's work with an intent of withdrawing from seeing, but getting more into feeling and hearing, so that we're less in the visual sense and more in the other senses. So just for a moment or two, open your eyes and really intensely look at everything around you. Like really just be in the visual. Like whatever's in your room or your space that you're practicing right now. Just take a good look at it. Have a stare around your space. Breathing deeply as you do that. Just acknowledging the visual and your sense of sight. And then bring your head back to the middle, close your eyes. And notice which of your other senses you notice most, or you notice first. Whether that's feeling, or smelling, or hearing, or tasting. Just now opening your awareness to those other senses that are not seeing. We're often in a practice of feeling in the yoga classes, but maybe for today, let's focus on feeling and hearing. So checking into your feeling sense in the world of sensation and how you're experiencing your physical body in a feeling way right now. And then noticing your hearing sense. What sounds are there in the room or the space that you're in? What sounds are there beyond the space you're in? Like if you're in a room, are there sounds coming from outside that room? Either in the house or the road outside or birds? Are there sounds coming from beyond that you hear? And then notice the sense of sound really close in. So the sound of your breath, the sound potentially of your heart, the sound of liquids moving around your body. Noticing any sound that very much is within, that is happening, that is coming from within your skin. So feeling and listening are the things to focus on for the intention today. And I'd encourage you during the practice, if it feels safe to do so, once you're in a pose, to close your eyes, to just let go of that visual sense so you can be more in feeling and listening. Or if it doesn't feel safe to close your eyes, if things are too wobbly or if it just doesn't feel good for you, maybe just soften the eyes and look down towards the ground, or just look at something simple so there's not like a whole distracting world coming in through your eyes. Let's get started with some Kapalabhati, which is an unusual breathing practice. Kapalabhati is like pulling the belly in very fast a lot of times. And as you pull the belly in, it pushes the air out of your nose, and then you relax the belly, take a mini inhale, and then you pull the belly in, that makes a mini exhale, and you keep doing that. It's much faster and shallower than regular yoga breathing. So start off with about a half breath in, just so you've got something in your lungs, but there'll be these mini inhales and exhales. So inhale about halfway, and then exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. Keep going. I can't talk and do it at the same time, so you do keep going. Remember, you need to take a mini inhale in between, otherwise you run out of air. If you find you're running out of air, it's because you're not taking an inhale. Keep going, do another like 20 or so. Keep going. Make sure the belly's going back on the exhale. The belly's going in on the exhale, not the other way around. Great. Take a break from Kapalabhati. Come back to Ujjayi breathing. Smooth Ujjayi breathing. Perhaps closing the eyes. Or looking down and softening the eyes. Noticing the sounds, noticing feelings. Side bend. Take your right leg out to the side and have your left heel in front of the groin. And then we'll come this way. Inhale and reach your right arm towards the leg. Rest it on the leg or to the inside of the leg, or even the outside of the leg if that feels more comfortable. Exhale, take the other arm up into a side bend. Inhale and feel both sides of your ribs expand. Exhale, let your right shoulder drop down and relax the head to the side. Letting go of the visual, exploring the feeling world and the listening world more. Next thing we'll do is chest opener. Bring the arm that's up in the air kind of out to the side, maybe a little bit higher than the shoulder. Spread the fingers out and reach the arm to the side or maybe a little bit back if that feels good. You could also bend the elbow if that feels helpful in your shoulder. Inhale, lift the ribcage up. Exhale, relax the head to the side. Right ear moving towards right shoulder. Slow, steady breaths. Final thing on this side is neck release. Bring your arm lower down now. Hands not quite on the floor. And reach the arm out to the side, just so you get this opening in the side of the neck. Inhale, filling your breath right up to the top of your lungs. Exhale, feel for releasing in the side of your neck. Releasing rather than pulling. And then sit yourself up. Take your right hand and lift the head up. Great. Then change legs to the other side. If you want to do that with the eyes closed. And then come into this pose the other side. Inhale, reach your left arm to the side, and then I rather rest it on the leg, to the inside of the leg or to the outside of the leg, wherever feels best in your shoulder. Inhale and take the other arm up in the air. Exhale, rotate the right hand side of your ribs back a little. Inhale and widen your collarbones. Exhale, slightly press down into the legs. There's lots of leg stuff coming up, so connect in feeling to your legs. Whether you've had an active day, walking or gardening or standing, or doing something else with your legs, or whether your legs have been quite, maybe sat in a chair all day and not doing so much. Just being aware of your legs now. Slightly pressing the points of contact with the floor downwards into the floor. Keep that action in the legs, but bring your right arm into chest opener. Letting the head relax to the side. Continuing to work with Ujjayi breath for the rest of this class till we get to Shavasana. Neck release, bring the right hand lower down, not quite onto the floor. Just to focus on really releasing in the side of the neck. Working these poses with the eyes closed, if that feels like an interesting thing to do. Come out of this, use your right hand to pull your torso upright, keeping the head relaxed. Then use your left hand to straighten the head up. Come onto the hands and knees now. Put padding underneath your knees if you need to. And we'll do some leg slides. For this, it helps if the feet could not be on the sticky mat, so that you can slide your feet along the floor. I'll show you what I mean. We're going to be doing this kind of thing. So maybe have your feet on the carpet, or you could wear socks, something like that, just so that the feet aren't sort of getting stuck on the sticky mat. So come into a hands and knees position, and we'll do some leg slides to begin with. If at any point, we're going to do 2 or 3 things on the wrists. If you need to take a break from the wrists, you could instead experiment with doing this with the forearms on the floor. Okay. Inhale and slide your left foot back along the floor. Exhale, slide the left foot in, bringing the knee back to where it was. Inhale, slide the right foot back along the floor. Exhale, bring the knee back into where it was. Do that once more on either side. We're kind of getting into some core stuff here. So just feeling for being in connection with your core as you do this. Let's do a slightly different variation of this, where we'll also lift the opposite arm. If that feels not good on the remaining wrist that's on the floor, then keep doing the leg slides as we just did. Inhale, slide the left foot back along the floor. Exhale, connect to your core and lift the right arm up and forwards. Rotate the palm inwards. Then bring the hand and the foot back to where they were. Inhale, slide the right leg back. Exhale, connect to your core. Lift the left arm forward. Palm is facing towards the middle. Back of the hand is facing towards the outside. Bring the hand and knee back down. Let's do another round of that. Inhale, slide the left foot back. Exhale, connect to your core. Take the right hand forwards. Bring the hand and knee to the floor. Inhale, slide the right leg back. Exhale, connect to the core, lift the left arm forwards. Bring the hand and the knee back. We'll do one more like this. This time, if you want to, you'll also be lifting the leg up as well as the arm up. Again, if that does not feel so good right now in your wrists or your back, keep doing the leg slides. Okay, inhale, slide the left leg back and then lift the left heel up so it's level with the hip. Exhale, take the right hand forwards, connecting to your core so you're not going into a banana as you do this. Hand to the floor, knee to the floor. Inhale, slide the right leg back, take the leg up to so it's about the same height as the hip. Exhale, lift the left arm forward, stay stable in the back and the core. Hand to the floor, knee to the floor. Inhale, left leg comes back, lift it. Exhale, right arm goes forwards. Hand and knee to the floor. Inhale, right leg goes back. Exhale, left arm goes forwards. Okay, bring the hand and knee to the floor. And then come back into a seated position for a moment. Give the wrists a break. In fact, let's do some wrist stretches here. Interlace the hands together. Interlace the fingers together. Inhale, push the inside the hands of the way away. Lift the arms up a bit. Exhale, lower the hands down. Inhale, lift the arms up. Just stretching into the hands. Only go as far as feels okay in your shoulders. Exhale, lower down. Do 2 more, moving with your breath. Maybe doing this with the eyes closed. Noticing sounds, noticing feelings. After that round, unwind the hands and give your fingers a wiggle. For the next set of poses, you'll need to build some kind of plinth to put underneath your hips. If you have a yoga bolster, this works really well. If you don't have a yoga bolster, you could do something like take some blocks and put them together to build a little plinth. Or you could take a few blankets and build yourself like a little plinth like that. What we will be doing is coming onto the back and lifting the hips up. So it's kind of easiest to, depending on which way you're going to do it. If you've got a complicated sort of thing, you might need to sort of sit on it and then carefully take your hands down and then carefully come down from there to the floor. But you want to end up, or you could just come down to lying on your back and then insert things underneath the back of your hips. I'll show you the first thing we're doing, which is just some simple leg dips, but with internal rotation. If this doesn't make sense as I talk through it, just watch me and then you'll get the sense of it. So the back of the hips are supported on your bolster or blocks or blankets, whatever you've got. So what we'll do with these leg dips is one leg comes up, you internally rotate it, and then the foot comes down to the floor. It's kind of going forwards rather than out to the side. Tap the floor and then back to the middle. So inhale, other leg comes up, internally rotate it. So the front of the thigh is moving inwards, the foot's moving out to the side. Exhale, take the leg forwards and down to the floor. Tap the floor and then bring the foot back to the middle. If it doesn't feel okay to take the feet all the way to the floor, you don't have to take the leg all the way to the floor. Let's give this a go. So inhale, lift the left leg up, rotate the front of the left thigh in. Exhale, tap the foot to the floor, tap the heel if you can, and then bring the foot back to the middle. Inhale, lift the right leg up, internally rotate the leg. Exhale, take the leg towards the floor, forwards, knee stays bent, tap the heel on the floor, and then back to the middle. Good. Do 2 more on either side. Moving slowly. Taking the foot, when you're taking the foot down to the floor, take it kind of forwards rather than out to the side. So even though the leg is sort of twisted, kind of it's going forwards rather than sideways. Finish off after the round you're on. And once you're done with that, just have both feet on the floor for a moment, sending some breath into the belly. Next one we'll do is Oblique Toner, which we have done before, but again we're going to do it with a bit of extra internal rotation. For this, you'll be in the same position with the hips elevated, but you need one more prop, one more cushion or block to have between the thighs. So you want to find one extra thing that you can squeeze between the inner thighs. And we'll start this one with the feet up off the floor and knees above the hips. Okay. And then once you've got the prop, I want you to slightly internally rotate the legs. Again, so both legs. Yeah. And then the prop's going to stay there and the legs are going to stay internally rotated. Great. Slightly squeeze the block. Inhale, take both legs to the left, just a little bit, keeping the hips quite stable. Exhale, legs come back to the middle. Keep the internal rotation going on. Inhale, legs come to the right, not super far to the right, maybe it's like 20 or 30 degrees. Inhale, legs come back to the middle. So inhale, go over to the left. Keep squeezing the block so it's like the legs and the hips stay as one unit. Exhale, back to the middle. Inhale, over to the right. Exhale, back to the middle. Do a couple more rounds. Noticing sounds. Noticing feeling. Maybe letting go of the visual. Next time your legs go to the right, let that be the last one. And after that, bring the legs to the middle, remove the prop, and bring your feet to the floor one by one. This position with the hips elevated is actually quite a nice one to hang out in as a relaxation. We're not going to stay here. We're not going to relax here for a whole load of time, but maybe just for a minute or two now, making sure your hips are supported by the props in a good way, so they don't want to be pushing into lower back. Having the feet comfortably on the floor. And then place your hands just above the hip bones on your belly. Close your eyes and dedicate the next few minutes to relaxing your belly. Relaxing the contents of your belly. Sending your breath to your belly in a relaxed way. With every exhale, letting the belly drop back. Then we'll do one more pose with the hips elevated like this. We've done scissors straddle before, but I've got a slightly new way of doing it. So I'll talk you through it. Lift both feet up off the floor again. And then straighten out your legs. It doesn't matter if they're a little bit bent, but basically straighten them out. Great. So let's focus on the left leg first. Next time you exhale, take the left leg forwards and away towards the floor. Now, you can take the leg as far as the hips don't start to tilt. There's a point that you get to that the hips start to tilt. I want you to stop before that point. Inhale, left leg comes back up to where it was. Exhale, move the right leg away. Just paying attention to the hips. Like the point at which the whole pelvis starts to move, then pause before that point. Inhale, leg comes back up. Now take both legs out into straddle. So both legs come out to the sides. Exhale, gather the belly in. Inhale, legs come back together. We can also, with the scissors bit, add a little bit of internal rotation. So let's internally rotate the left leg. Exhale, move the left leg forwards and away. Inhale, bring the leg back up. Internally rotate the right leg. Exhale, right leg moves forwards and down towards the floor, but only so far as the pelvis stays stable. Inhale, leg comes back up. Both legs come out into straddle. Exhale, gather the belly in. Inhale, legs back together. Do 2 more rounds. So it's scissors, scissors, straddle. If you can, have the feet active. If it feels interesting to do a round or so with the eyes closed, you could play with that. Finish off the round you're on and then bend your legs and bring the feet to the floor. And then lift your hips up off the support, slide it out of the way. Roll onto one side. And come onto your hands and knees. Let's do one more thing on the hands and knees before we'll move into some standing work. So let's just do some really simple pelvic tilts. I say really simple, but this is all about just getting the hips to move without moving the rest of the spine. And I know it's kind of really tempting because we often do cat-cow, which is like a big movement for the spine. It's not that, it's just keeping most of the spine in a neutral position, but just moving the sacrum and the hips and a little bit of the lumbar spine. So on inhale, I want you to relax the belly, let the lower belly drop down, and the top of your sacrum, if you imagine the top of the back of the hips is moving down towards the floor a bit, and the tailbone is moving up towards the ceiling. Then on the exhale, pull your lower belly in, gather in the lower belly, and the top of your sacrum, top of the back of the hips, is moving up towards the ceiling, and the tailbone is moving down. But we're just trying to move the hips, not move the rest of the spine. Okay, so inhale, tailbone moves up, top of the sacrum moves down, lower belly softens. Exhale, lower belly hugs in, top of the sacrum moves down, top of the sacrum moves up, tailbone tilts down. So keep going in this pattern. Feeling if you can make this movement really just about the hips. And if your wrists are not keen on this, you could totally do this with the forearms on the floor. It's possibly slightly harder, but you can still get that movement of the hips tilting one way and then the other way. That's good. I can see you're all managing to isolate that, which feels like not very much movement in some ways, but it's actually a massively useful movement because that's the amount of mobility you've got in your pelvis. And it's one of those things where a lot of people get very stuck in their pelvis, they can't move their hips. And it's really good to be able to keep that tilting movement because it's a big part of feeling flexible and feeling mobile. From here, let's come up to a standing position. So just come into downward facing dog and stand up, or just stand up. Ooh, take your random props off the mat. We will need some random props actually. Which random props will we need? We'll definitely need something to pad the knees for this sequence. And if you have two blocks would also be helpful. So go get them if you have blocks. And if not, you can improvise. Great. We'll do some two pose vignettes. So one pose after another on one side before we do the other side. And in between each of those two poses, you have the option to either move through a half sun salutation, or you could come into a more neutral pose like mountain pose, or downward facing dog, or being on your hands and knees. So I will flag to you where those points are. Stand at one end of your mat, one of the short ends of your mat. And we're going to start in Warrior One. Have your left foot forward and your right foot step back, and bend your left knee. Let's start with the hands on the hips. Once you've found your balance, close your eyes or just let your gaze drop to the floor. If you're not breathing deeply, find the deep breath again. Rooting down through the soles of your feet. Waking up your legs. Keep that quality of attention in your legs, and we'll also do Birdwing. So now bring the upper arms in next to the rib cage. Have the hands in front, staying in Warrior One. Inhale, spread the fingers out. Exhale, take the hands out to the side. Squeeze the upper arms in. Bring the front lower ribs in a little bit. Inhale, hands come closer. Exhale, hands come out the side without pushing the lower ribs forwards. Do that a couple more times. So I'm trying to keep this part of my ribs in as I do this movement. I'm not allowing that to happen. I'm keeping this in. Release your arms. Either step forward into mountain pose, or if you want to do a half sun salutation, inhale, bring the hands to the floor and step back into plank. Exhale, lower all the way down onto your belly. Inhale into a cobra. Exhale into downward facing dog. And then we'll all come into Warrior One. So everybody step your right foot forward and left foot back. Setting up in Warrior One. Hopefully the other way around now. Working this first with the hands on the hips, but really strongly connecting to your feet and your legs. Either closing your eyes or dropping your gaze to the floor. But welcoming that input from your feeling sense and from your hearing sense. Then we'll do a few rounds of Birdwing. Bring your upper arms next to the rib cage. Hands start in front. Slightly tuck your front lower ribs in if you had a tendency to push them forwards. Inhale, spread the fingers out. Exhale, squeeze the arms in. Take the arms out of the side without pushing the ribs forwards. Inhale, hands come forwards. Exhale, hands come out to the side. Keep this bit of the ribs going in. Then release your arms and either step forward into mountain pose, or if you wanted to do the half sun salutation, inhale and make your way into plank. Exhale, lower down to the floor. Inhale into cobra. Lift the elbows off the floor. Exhale, downward facing dog. Next thing we'll do is warrior two. So downward facing dog, people step your left foot forward and come into warrior two. If you're standing up, turn yourself now towards one of the long sides of your mat. Step the feet wide apart, and then you'll be turning the left toes out 90 degrees, bending the left knee, and bringing the right toes in a little bit. So warrior two. Okay. Let's do extended warrior variation with the arm behind the back. So inhale and drop your left forearm onto the thigh. Exhale, lean back slightly. Take the right hand side of the chest back and then wrap the other arm all the way behind your back as far as you can. Inhale, push down into your right foot. Make the right leg strong and lengthen the whole of the torso away from the right leg. Exhale, relax your left ear towards your left shoulder. Working this with a relaxed gaze or the eyes closed. Feeling your strong legs. Reverse warrior. Inhale and bring your arms back out to warrior two. Keep the left knee bent. Exhale, take the right hand down onto the leg, left hand up in the air. If it feels better in the left arm, you could work this with the left arm lower down. It's up to you. Keep a bend in your left knee. Only close the eyes if you feel steady. If it's hard to keep your balance, you might need to keep the eyes open to some extent. Washing deep breaths through you. Inhale and come back to warrior two. Exhale and either come down to the floor into plank or make your way into mountain pose. In mountain pose, ground down through your feet. Be really upright through your spine. If you're doing the half sun salutation, go from plank down to the floor. Inhale into a cobra. Exhale into downward facing dog. And then step your right foot forward to do warrior two on the other side. So mountain pose, people, step the feet wider apart again. Rotate the right toes out 90 degrees. Bend the right knee. So you're in warrior two with the right knee bent. So we did extended warrior variation first. Inhale and place your right forearm on your right thigh. Exhale, lift the torso slightly away from the thigh and then wrap your left hand behind your back as far as you can. Inhale and ground down through the left leg, straighten the left leg. Exhale, relax your head to the side. Sometimes practicing with the eyes closed can be a really interesting challenge because you realize how much of our balance, or part of our balance, does come from sight. The sight has a role to play in balance. Inhale, come back to warrior two with the arms. Keep the right knee bent. Exhale and come into reverse warrior. Left hand goes down onto the leg, right arm is up in the air. Or if you want to modify the arm, you could have the right arm lower down. If that works better for your right shoulder. Inhale, connect down through your feet. Exhale, soften around your throat and your left shoulder. And then come out of that. Either make your way back to mountain pose, or if you want to do the half sun salutation, inhale and step back to plank. Exhale, lower down to the floor. Inhale into cobra. Exhale into downward facing dog. And then we're all going to come into a lunge. So downward facing dog, people, step your left foot forwards, bring the right knee to the floor. If you're standing, face towards one of the short ends of your mat, take the left foot forward and then bring the right knee down onto the mat. So we'll do a couple of different things here. The first one I want to do is just to do a lunge, really taking the hips forwards and opening into the front of the right thigh. But if you go like really far with this, you can kind of do that with a dead butt. But I want you to do this with a activated butt, particularly if you feel your right sitting bone. Bring the hips back over the right knee. Feel your right sitting bone and then squeeze the right sitting bone in the direction of your tailbone. Trying to move your right sitting bone towards the tailbone so the lower buttock muscles switch on. Keep that lower buttock muscle activation and then bring the hips forward. You might not go so far, but you can kind of feel the butt. You might be able to feel the front of the right thigh more. Good. Either keep the hands on the hips or take the arms forward. Keeping that connection to your right butt as you do this. If you're feeling very balanced in these kind of poses, doing this with the eyes closed, or just have the eyes like relaxed and maybe looking at a spot on the floor. So that there's a space for more feeling and more hearing. Second pose here is Nomads Pose. Relax the arms. If you have blocks, they might be helpful. You're going to bring your hips back over the right knee, and then take the left foot a little bit further forward, so the left leg can be straight. I feel like I'm camouflaged with my wall, but hips are over the right knee. Left foot comes a bit forward, so the left leg is straight, and then you hinge forward from the hips, taking your hands onto the leg or onto blocks or onto the floor. But the left leg is basically straight here. Once you're in this position, you can also play with pointing and flexing your left foot, nice and slowly. Slowly going from pointing to flexing, from flexing to pointing. Okay, then come back into a kneeling position. And you could either hang out in a kneeling position for a couple of breaths, or if you want to do the half sun salutation, you could take yourself through the half sun salutation. Whatever works for you over the next 2 breaths. And then set up for lunge on the other side. So this time the right foot is forward, left knee is on the floor. We're going to do lunge first. Connect your left hand somewhere near your left sitting bone, and then squeeze your left sitting bone in the direction of your tailbone. Kind of, it's almost squeezing it inwards and downwards a bit. Good. Inhale. Press the foot that is in contact with the floor and the shin that's in the contact with the floor down. Exhale. Keep the butt activated, but bring the hips forwards. Only so far as you can keep that connection to your butt. And then either take your hands onto your hips or reach the arms forwards. With this big awareness of the legs, of the butt. Kind of getting this controlled opening in the front of your left thigh. Bring your hands down, shift your hips back, and set up for Nomads Pose. If you want to use blocks under the hands, you can. So hips are over the back knee, right foot comes a bit further forward, and you could have your hands on the leg, or the hands on blocks, or hands on the floor, because you're also sort of leaning forwards a bit here. If you feel stable, close your eyes. And then play with pointing and flexing your right foot. Noticing that experience through feeling rather than through watching your foot. Okay, finish off with that one. And then either step back onto your hands and knees or into a downward facing dog. Just take a couple of breaths on your hands and knees or in downward facing dog or in child's pose. And then from there, step your left foot forwards to do standing balancing lunge. So this is kind of a lunge, but your back knee is up off the floor, and I want you to lift your back heel up off the floor as well. And maybe bend your right knee down towards the floor a bit. Again, you can do that thing with the sitting bone, the right sitting bone, where you squeeze it towards the tailbone. Doing this with the eyes closed or like the gaze dropped. Next pose is vertical splits. For many people, blocks are helpful for this. You'd put the blocks in front of your left foot, just a little bit. And then you're bringing your weight into the left foot and taking your right leg up and back. If that feels kind of too much strain on your back, you could keep your right toes down on the floor. But it's good to connect your core to help you lift the leg up. It's okay if it rolls out to the right a little bit. If the right hip rolls up, you're not deliberately doing that, but it might just happen a bit. That's okay. Inhale and reach back and up with the right foot. Exhale, actively connect to your core. Relax your head forwards. Inhale, lift your hips up away from the left leg a little bit. Exhale, keep reaching up and back with the right leg. Okay, reach back with the right leg, bring it down to the floor. And then let's just switch our legs over. So bring the right forward and the left foot back. We'll start off in standing balancing lunge. So carrying the torso up to begin with. So right foot forward, left foot back, balance on the left toes, bend the left knee. Coming back to your deep breath. That is quite an intense pose. Bending the left knee a little bit more if you want to. And then coming into vertical splits. So bring the hands forwards onto the floor or onto blocks. And then bring your weight forward onto the right foot. Keep your left toes down if you need to. Otherwise, lift the left leg back and up. Inhale, slightly lift your pelvis itself up away from the right leg. Exhale, reach back and up with the left foot. Make the left foot active. Relax the head forwards. And you're moving your chest towards the right thigh. If you're having a really advanced day, doing this with the eyes closed. Inhale, reach back with the left leg, bring it down to the floor. Exhale, lift your torso up and come into mountain pose. Just coming back to a sense of balancing on two legs. Perhaps closing the eyes. Coming back to equilibrium and to your deep breath. Let's do one more set of two poses. They're a little bit less intense though. First one will be pigeon. Again, blocks are helpful if you have them. Turn towards the short end of the mat, step the left foot forward and the right foot back. But you're kind of facing towards the short end of the mat. You could even pull the left hip back and the right hip forward some. Both legs stay straight in pyramid. And then you fold from your hips and bring your hands down onto the leg or onto the blocks. Or if you're having a very flexible day, you might be able to get your hands on the floor, but you're basically keeping your legs here. Like anybody could bend their knee and take the hands to the floor, but you're trying to keep the left leg straight. So because of that, you might need to have the hands on blocks or somewhere on the leg. Notice your hips, and there's a tendency for the left hip to roll forwards and the right hip to go back, but we actually don't want that. You want to roll your right hip forward and your left hip back. If your hands are on your blocks, slightly press down onto the hands, lift the chest forwards and up. Still breathing with your Ujjayi breath, slow, deep breaths. Working with a relaxed gaze or your eyes closed, if that feels interesting. And then bend both knees and you'll come into pigeon. So bring the right knee all the way down to the floor. And then reset your left leg so that the left knee is forwards on the floor. You'll probably need to edge the right leg back a bit more. So you're in pigeon. So bring the elbows down or come further down towards the floor if that feels good. And if you've got blocks nearby and it feels good to rest your forehead onto a block, that could be a nice thing to do sometimes. Coming into pigeon. Experiencing this as feeling and as sound. Then bring your hands underneath your shoulders, ease your torso up. Come back onto your hands and knees and then stand up. Let's do pyramid on the other side. So facing one of the short ends of your mat, have the right leg forward, left leg back now. Blocks, if you're going to use them, placed somewhere near the front foot. So right leg is straight, left leg is straight. And move your right hip back so that you're really facing square onto the front of your mat. Inhale, telescope the ribs up and ground down through your feet. Exhale, fold from your hips and bring your hands onto your leg or onto the blocks. Keeping both legs straight. Let your head relax forwards. And then reset for pigeon with your right knee forwards, left leg going back. However it makes most sense to come into pigeon with the right knee forwards. You might need to wiggle the left leg back. And then ease down towards the floor onto your elbows, maybe resting your forehead on a block. Staying connected to your active deep breath. Perhaps noticing if the sound of your breathing feels like it registers as one of those sounds sounds in your field. How that is relative to the other sounds around you. And then bring your hands underneath your shoulders, lift your torso up, and come into a seated position. And then we'll move into happy baby. So lying on your back, bring your feet up in the air, bend the knees, and if you can, catch hold of your feet. If the feet are a bit far away, catch hold of your leggings or your shins instead. The knees are moving in the direction of your armpits. Whether it feels good to do this pose in a static way or to rock a little from side to side. Making this less about the visual, more about feeling or your hearing sense. Just hanging out in happy baby. And then making this transition with the eyes closed if you can. Let go of the feet, let the feet come down to the floor. Just lie on your back with the knees bent, reach the arms out to the side, and come into a very simple lying down twist. Taking the knees from side to side, really slowly. Like 1 mile an hour or something. Slowly easing the knees from side to side. Only as far as feels comfortable. Being in an experience of sound, of feeling. Then over the next 2 rounds, just ease to a standstill. And what we're going to do next is come back to that position that we were in for a while in the middle of abs, where we just had the hips elevated a little bit with the knees bent. So just taking whatever prop makes sense to do that. Kind of, I like my bolster because it's quite nice and soft. You can use blocks if they're not too pokey. So bringing something underneath your sacrum now, underneath the back of the hips. Just to elevate the hips a little bit in a way that feels comfortable. Not too high, like not super high with this. Then make sure you feel even and comfortable. And then rest your hands on your belly. And we'll hang out here for just a few minutes with the intention of relaxing the belly. Up to you whether you continue with the active Ujjayi breath or you just let your breath relax now. Letting the belly relax. letting the front of your hips relax. Letting the whole contents of your abdomen relax. If lying with the hips elevated is your new favorite thing and you want to stay here longer, feel free to stay in this setup. If you'd have a rather be resting flat on the floor, then just lift your hips slightly so you can slide the support out. Bring your hips down to the floor, and then rest flat for a moment as you decide how you want to set yourself up next to do some more extended rest. So however you want to do your Shavasana now, whether you want to stay with the hips elevated or you want to shift into a position flat on the floor or something else, then feel free to make that transition now. Easing into a place of stillness so you can rest for a few more minutes. Without opening your eyes, notice the world of sound around you. Notice the world of sound beyond the space you're in. Notice the world of sound within you, inside of you. And then start to ease into movement. Slowly noticing your feeling world. And when you do open your eyes, do that really consciously, letting the visual sense back in a way where you're just aware of how it changes, how it can shift your perception. It's a big part of our perception. And then if you want to get up now, roll onto one side and then sit up from the side. Thank you so much for joining me on my mat to practice today. If you'd like to do some other videos with me, I have lots in my virtual yoga vault, which is available to the Inspiratrix Yoga monthly members. If you're a member, you'll know where to find that, or send me a message if you don't. And if you're not a member, well, there are a few other videos out there on YouTube that you can access. Go to my YouTube channel, click on subscribe, and then click on the bell icon, and you'll find out when and whether we put out any new videos onto YouTube. Thank you for practicing with me today. Goodbye.